So as of a few minutes ago, Angela Rayner has resigned as Deputy Prime Minister for failing to pay the correct amount of stamp duty on her property. Now, I was recording a video and I've re-recorded the intro for this very purpose because I was going to say that there are several concerns and several reasons that Angela Rayner just cannot continue with any level of integrity based on reasons that I'll give you in this video. So I'll play it to you nonetheless, but she has now resigned. Angela Rayner really is in trouble, and not just because she's admitted paying the wrong stamp duty, something far more serious than that, which in my opinion means that she simply cannot continue if she has any shred of integrity. And likewise, Keir Starmer cannot allow her to continue if he has any shred of integrity. I'll explain why in a minute. But also in this video, in the second half, Epping Forest Council are not giving up. They are going to the Supreme Court for permission to appeal after the Home Office successfully set aside the injunction with the hotel there, because now it appears that this chap that sort of sparked all of these protests has been found guilty of multiple counts of sexual assault, including against a 14-year-old girl and a woman. More about that in the second half of the video, about the rules and so on. But first of all, if you do like these brutally honest updates with the law and my opinions as they stand, please do subscribe to the channel, help me grow, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much. So let's take a look at this, shall we? Why am I saying that this is more serious than just she's admitted paying the wrong stamp duty? Well, it's quite clear, as is many things, when you use the words of somebody against whom you're making any kind of allegation or criticism and so on. We can use her own words here. She's effectively said in her own defense that she was relying on legal advice. Now, let's just first of all hear what she said, and then I'll tell you why that's such a problem. Listen to this.
Advice on that, and I relied on that legal advice that I received that said that I was liable to pay the standard stamp duty. Subsequently to that, with all of the media reports that have been coming out, I took expert counsel advice on all of my affairs to ensure that everything was done proper, and that expert counsel said that the advice that I received was inaccurate because of the trust.
So let's just wind back to the beginning a little bit. Now, I'm not someone that says every tiny little bit of body language tells you everything, but when you take a few things together, they do sort of pull together and tell you a bit of a story. Very often looking down is a sign of dishonesty or not giving you the full picture at the very least, fluttering eyes and all this sort of stuff. Just take another look at this with that in mind. As she talks about taking the advice, relying on it, she does look down. Take a look at this.
Advice on that, and I relied on that.
So looking down, then looking up and away, it's like she's trying to avoid the situation or not trying to give you the full picture of exactly what's happened here. So let's just clear up a couple of things first. Now, Shoesmiths apparently helped with the setting up of the trust, but they were very quick to jump in to distance themselves from the tax advice or the stamp duty advice because they didn't act in that. So this here from Legal Cheek, Shoesmiths moved to distance itself from the political row surrounding Angela Rayner after its name was wrongly linked to this purchase of this flat. Now, I did clarify that in my video yesterday because I saw that floating around. It was reported that Shoesmiths assisted in the setting up of the trust in 2020 for her son, but then it was wrongly assumed by some that they were also involved in the purchase of this property and the relevant advice for stamp duty. But a spokesperson for Shoesmiths has clarified and said, "We did not act for the Right Honourable Angela Rayner in relation to the purchase of the Hove property and or in the stamp duty land tax aspects of that property. Miss Rayner is not a current client of the firm and has not been for some time." Now then some people might question, well, aren't they not allowed to say that? Isn't that a breach of confidentiality and that sort of thing? Well, not really, because it is not really a breach of confidentiality to say that you did not act for somebody in a certain part of a transaction. You're not disclosing any confidential information or anything like that. They are just saying that we didn't do that. That was nothing to do with us. And equally, not a current client of the firm. It is a statement of fact. It's not a breach of any kind of confidentiality. But that being the case, if Shoesmiths did not advise on the stamp duty land tax, to whom was Angela Rayner presumably referring when she said she took advice? Well, there was a firm called Verico and Associates that acted in that transaction, but they have been equally quick to come out to say that they did not advise around the tax. Joanna Verico, managing director, told The Telegraph, "We acted for Miss Rayner when she purchased the flat in Hove. We did not and have never given tax or trust advice. It's something we always refer our clients to an accountant or tax expert for. The stamp duty for Hove flat was calculated using HMRC's own online calculator based on the figures and the information provided by Ms. Rayner. Again, it's not really a breach of any kind of confidentiality to say it was calculated in the normal method with the information we were given. That is what any law firm would presumably say. They said that's what we used, and it told us that we had to pay £30,000 based on the information provided to us. We believe that we did everything correctly and in good faith. Everything was exactly as it should be. We probably are being made scapegoats for all this, and I have got the arrows stuck in my back to show it. We are not an inexperienced firm, but we're not qualified to give advice on trust and tax matters, and we advise clients to seek expert advice on these. And again, in defense of this firm, I would say that it is not any kind of breach of confidentiality before anybody says so to say that they don't give tax advice. That is a statement of fact. And therefore, to say that they would not have given tax advice, anything over and above doing the ordinary calculations based on information given to them, that is a plain statement of fact which anybody would already know and is not going to breach any particular information that was given to them by Angela Rayner. And if ever there was any doubt as to whether she should resign, again, we can look to her own words here. You cannot say this and then not resign. Listen to this.
Myself and Keir have said that it's the absolute minimum that if we break the rules, we cannot continue in office.
And so in short, it's absolutely right that she should resign. And with many other ministers who've supported her, wrongly in my view, they should also be looking at their own levels of integrity moving forward.
Now, speaking about how bad things have got just recently in the UK, I had a horrendous day just the other day, and all I was doing was travelling to London. And whilst it was nice to meet a few people out and about who recognised me, which is always nice, but the first train was cancelled, so I had to get an earlier train. And then on the way back, the first train was cancelled, the second train was cancelled, the third train was late. And even then, on the journey, they turfed me off. It was a nightmare. But all the way, I was trying to connect to their Wi-Fi networks, and I was just that little bit suspicious about the different networks that were on there. And so that got me to thinking about when you are abroad and connecting to networks abroad, how do you know that the local network there is safe, even if it's provided in partnership with your current mobile provider? And so that got me to thinking about one of my partners for my channels here, which is Saily, because Saily is an eSim network which you can use anywhere in the world, hundreds of countries, and it's provided by NordVPN, which gives you the same security that you get from NordVPN. So you get security for visiting websites, the downloads, and ensuring that you stay anonymous, and it protects your devices whilst you are connected to the internet around and about anywhere in the world. It's really straightforward. You download the app anytime. You don't have to buy anything straight away. But when you do travel, you can buy a plan for your country of destination using my code BlackBeltBarrister to give you 15% off at checkout. Don't forget that, although the QR code should apply the discount for you. But remember the code BlackBeltBarrister. That will give you 15% off, and it will activate seamlessly on arrival. You don't need to wait for a bit of plastic to arrive in the post. It is an eSIM. You just install it on here, few clicks of a button, and it's ready to go. So don't forget 15% off using BlackBeltBarrister, and it will give you safe and secure access to the internet wherever you are traveling. So download Saily today so that when you're traveling, you know that you'll get safe access to the internet.
So now to the second half of the video, and Epping Forest Council taking its appeal to the Supreme Court. Now, there's been a bit of confusion as to whether or not they could appeal the Court of Appeal decision to overturn the injunction to the Supreme Court. But first, they needed to seek permission from the Court of Appeal, but the Court of Appeal refused permission, oddly enough, without really giving any valid reason. So only then can they take the appeal directly to the Supreme Court under the Supreme Court rules, which I can probably drag on screen for you here. And it's under the form of application here. An application for permission to appeal must be made to the court below, and an application may be made to the Supreme Court only after they've refused to grant permission to appeal. And it would appear that there's very good reasons to, because This chap has been convicted now of several sexual assault charges. And it's quite damning, but it does support and justify all of the protests by the people of Epping as to why they were protesting this in the first place. Because this Bell Hotel has been the focal point of all of these demonstrations because people are quite rightly and now justifiably worried about their children in that area and other members of the public in that area in general. Because an adult member of the public was also assaulted, and she accused him of trying to kiss her, putting his hand on her leg and telling her that she was pretty just days after that he arrived in a small boat. He firstly denied 2 counts of assault, one attempted assault and another inciting a girl to engage in activity. I have to be careful with my words for YouTube. But in Chelmsford Magistrate Court on yesterday, he was found guilty on all charges, with District Judge Williams taking just 30 minutes to return the verdicts and reasoning. This was heard over 3 days. Now, the question now will be, what happens? Because if we were to listen to Keir Starmer, this guy should now be immediately deported. The judge has told him that he should expect an immediate custodial sentence. But bearing in mind, a custodial sentence can be suspended. So we now wait to hear whether it's a custodial sentence that is suspended for any period of time, which means he's back out on the streets, or whether he is committed to prison. But again, if we take seriously anything that Keir Starmer says, he should be immediately deported, because he said, if you come here and break the rules, you will be deported. That's what he keeps saying. But we'll wait and see whether that actually happens, now that this man has been found guilty and justified all of the complaints in Epping and supporting Epping's reason to appeal this injunction to the Supreme Court. Because this now can be used as fresh evidence now that he's been convicted, because that obviously wasn't available beforehand. But now that he has been convicted, that will support this application to the Supreme Court to reinstate this injunction. Now, some people have said, well, why not just wait for the substantive hearing in October? Now, amazingly, the Home Office tried to delay this hearing by at least 6 weeks. They said that there were powerful reasons for a period of reflection following the Court of Appeal's ruling. But dismissing this attempt to kick this case into the long grass, the judge said the council was entitled to proceed with its claim, and said, I have to assume that the claimant, as a responsible public body, will reflect on the points raised in any event. And he said, it's in the interest of all that these matters affecting the Bell Hotel are resolved in a reasonably expeditious way. That's very polite speak for saying, let's get on with it, let's not waste time, let's just get this case heard. But there's also the question of whether it's really worth taking the time to appeal the Court of Appeal decision to set aside the injunction to the Supreme Court, because there's only a few weeks until this case will be heard in any event. I would say yes, because this is not just a point of whether it's a few weeks or not and what happens in that interim period, but it is most certainly a point of principle, because in my view, many people feel that that Court of Appeal decision was politically influenced, and that is not what we really should have as a public opinion of Court of Appeal judgments. I've spoken to a number of people over the last week or two, and many people feel that this is just a wrong decision by the Court of Appeal. And so it is right as a point of principle, which is both a point of law and a point of strong public interest, which is the test for the Supreme Court, to hear this as a matter of principle to decide whether that was correct or not. And if not, then it will set and pave the way forward for any other council that wishes to bring this case to court to close down these hotels. So I'll keep you informed as to what goes on. I'll give you my views. Please do subscribe to the channel. If you want a little bit more insight as to my own views, check out my Off the Record channel, link below. And as always, thank you for watching.